Name tags on it. Okay, we're calling to order the Thursday, the 19th, 2018 regular meeting of the City of Ojai Arts Commission. And we will start with a roll call, if you would, please, Mr. Vega.
Commissioner Toscher?
Here.
Commissioner Byrne? Commissioner Golden?
Here.
Vice Chair Harmon?
Here.
And Chair Addison.
Here. We'll move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you lead us in that, please, Marcy?
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, this is the time for public comment. Do we have anybody in the audience who wishes to address the commission? If not, we will move forward. You have in your packet the minutes for June 28th, the regular meeting. Any comments, corrections, emendations? I didn't find any. Anybody else?
I move to accept the minutes as written.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Off we go. All right, we're going to move forward with our scheduled agenda items, and that's Christine Byrne, I'm sure, coming in the door. It is. There she is. She's just had her moment on television, walking across the screen. Okay, we'll turn it over to you, Christine Golden, for the
Thank you, Chair.
report from
Thank
the
you, Chair
Public
Addison,
Art
very
Committee.
much.
Carry on.
Well, I want to start out with just reports other than the items that follow that we have several public art items. And the report's going to come from Marcy Toscher and the ad hoc, the Trimpen Sound Arch Ad Hoc Committee.
I'm going to pass these out. Take one and pass them down.
Very handsome.
When we formed the ad hoc Trimpen Sound Arch Committee, on our wish list and our to-do list was, after looking through the archives about the Trimpen Arch and the original designs and concepts and intentions behind it, we came across architectural drawings that showed the arch as illustrated on the front page in color with extensions to the kind of like deep bench extensions flanking the pillars of the arch. Right now, where those benches were intended to be, we've got fence. If the benches had been built as envisioned, we wouldn't have the fence right there and all of the resultant issues with traffic flow and all of that getting into Libby Bowl. So anyway, that's, we're going to be meeting with people. There's going to be some kind of a public meeting or whatever where all the different interested parties will come and talk about moving that fence, and then we'll be able to fill in with the bench and the city can rework traffic flow. So that's on our to-do list.
So the question that I have immediately is, what are the budgetary implications of this, and who is going to pay for the changes?
The benches, we envision having public fundraising, and since this is a public art piece, maybe we dip into the public art funds a little bit. We don't expect, from my somewhat limited knowledge of construction, this is not going to be a really expensive project. Any redesign of traffic flow or whatever, the city's paying for that.
And is that your supposition, or do you have some sort of guarantee that that'll
No,
happen?
no guarantees.
Okay. Then it seems to me that we need to talk about what the next steps might be. I would say at the outset that if there are budgetary implications like a fundraising effort or anything like that, it would have to come back to the commission for discussion by the commission and approval by the commission.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I think before we move forward, we need to get some sort of commitment from the city that they are willing to undertake this project and pay for those aspects that would be within their
Yeah.
bailiwick.
Mhm.
Can I,
Agreed.
can I ask a question?
Exactly
So
the
I think there's a
steps that
series
we
of
have
steps that we
outlined
have
as
to go
well.
through,
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
especially bringing it back to the commission for approval as we go forward for anything that's
Absolutely.
public.
Yeah.
Linda?
Two things. I know when there was a lot of changes in that design. There was supposed to be a separate building, another tower on there that was gonna, so there were a lot of changes. And I'm looking at the paperwork that you did provide, and this top, one on the top left has just like, is that what's there now, or is that what that's not the fence you're talking about that's there, right? The
No,
one
it's a
that's on
chain
the-
link fence there
Yeah, the
now.
one that's on the drawing. So the one on the drawing that David did doesn't show benches, it shows those pillars.
It's benches. You have to like really
Really, huh?
look over here. What is
Oh,
it?
that's a plaster bench, but which way does it go?
Yeah, the seating, it's actually a bench and then
A
a
rail.
wide bench, like let's say, this, maybe not that way. And then there's a bar
rail.
in the middle, so you could sit on either side of it.
Oh,
Okay.
oh, I see
So
what
it's
you're
really-
saying.
You're absolutely right.
Okay, I
It's really
gotcha.
hard to, now, if you look at the front picture, you get a little better
Okay.
idea of it,
Yeah, but
right?
it isn't
So-
immediately obvious.
So that was one of the
And
things.
Linda, they ran
changed.
out of money.
Yeah, I know they did.
Yeah.
I know they did.
Yeah.
That was my point.
Right.
But the other thing I was wondering was, have you talked to the Civic Association? Because they're in charge of the
idea.
bowl and what happens in the park,
This-
the
oh.
park itself, not the bowl, I guess. Are they in charge of the bowl?
Well, the
too?
Libby Bowl-
What's the park?
Yeah,
Yeah, so I would talk to the Civic Association also. That's a separate entity.
James, I guess,
fabulous idea.
Yeah.
There is
publicize
also-
it to them too.
Yeah, there is also a Libby Bowl Advisory Committee that I sit on, and it maybe should be run by them as well.
It
because-
is being run by them. That's, their public meeting is being held by Libby Bowl Committee.
They're heading it up, this meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, so this has all been run by Randy Haney, who's completely aware of it, Greg Grant, Steve McClary. All this has been going on in the background on the city level. And we just found out about the public meeting. And so we wanted to bring to you these drawings to let you know that we've been invited to give a presentation on what the original design was. And this is the original
Good,
design.
good.
Now, the ad hoc committee is going to be meeting in a couple weeks, and everything Michael said, you're right on target. We're going to come back here with a plan of action, which could include, thank you, Civic Association, also Rotary Club of Ojai, I belong to
Sure.
one of the Rotary Clubs. There's the Public Art Fund. I mean, we could get from several sources enough to cover this, because as Maris, I think she's right, this isn't going to be a huge expense.
No.
But it certainly will bring this piece of art into its complete fulfilled vision.
And into focus. I think that's as
Yeah.
important as anything, is that right now it's a sort of visual blur with that tacky fencing.
We're excited.
It's good, it's good, it's great. I mean, it's, yeah, it really is.
And we have anecdotal report about the exhibit they had at the museum did direct people to come check out the Trimpan Arch. And someone talked to some visitors that saw the exhibit and were really intrigued and came to the arch. They actually downloaded the app and they selected their songs. And so we're inching along with
Yep.
increasing public visibility about the arch and educating people about what it really does and what the artist's intentions were originally for this.
Well, it's great work, it really is. I mean, you guys are doing a terrific job on this.
The poor arch,
methodically and-
neglected arch.
No,
And I just want to add that I've encouraged Marcy, sort of the advisor for the group with the history, to bring in a couple more members onto this committee, because there is just a lot of
Yeah.
work to be done. So, and if anyone in the audience is interested and you love the Trimpan Arch, there's a Trimpan ad hoc committee, and we'd just love to have a couple more people help us with this. It's really an exciting project, so.
We would love it.
Contact the city of Ojai and let them know that you're interested in working on that committee.
that's our vast television audience that we're
Right.
addressing now, right?
Can I
So
ask-
the three of you,
There is one out there.
Okay, Linda?
Linda,
Marcy, do you need a set of those plans? Because I think I have some of the original
That would be
plans.
great.
They gave us all some. I might. I've got to look.
Great.
But I'll look and I'll let you know.
technical drawings, technical,
It's the presentation drawings with the renderings and all that.
okay, something that a contractor could
Yeah.
bid on?
Yeah, if you have something we don't have, we'd love to have it for the file. Yeah.
Thank you, Linda.
Yeah. The other report, which is going to be very, very brief, is that the contract for the archive photography has been presented and accepted by Roger Conrad. And now I'm under the gun because I promised Rotary that I would actually do a presentation on one of the art tours in February. So I now only have until February to get
put it
this
together.
thing rolling and going. So I just wanted to let you know about that.
No one to blame but yourself.
That's right. That's right. But you know what? In the middle of the night, I start taking notes. It's because it's
So
very
do we all.
exciting,
Yeah.
the idea of doing it. And one of the things that Marcy said she'd help me with is to go and visit some of the artists. Like we want to go and visit Ted Gall, and we want to find out if he's got any backstories for the Freedom
a great
Chaser,
idea.
so that
Yeah.
everybody that goes on this tour, there'll be a little backstory, because when you hear a backstory, like the backstory about fortune cookies, it just, your heart just bursts. Anyway, so I'm a little enthusiastic about that.
And I'm excited because it'd be great to have a lot of that on our website.
Oh,
Yes,
yes.
yes.
It'll all go up on the website. Okay, with some help.
Okay. onward.
Okay, and the next is B. You want to introduce it,
Yeah,
Michael?
the next is the request for modification from the Ojai Valley Inn, and this was presented at the special meeting we had on Monday of this week of the CAPA, the Committee to Approve Public Art. And we reviewed what they presented and what they proposed and discussed it and came to a recommendation. And I think, Christine, you should probably take it from there and
Okay.
describe what they proposed and what
right.
our recommendation is.
Well, for the sake of the audience, this particular project is the project that is to be installed at the site where an event center is being built at the inn. And there's a great backstory to this because in order to build this, the inn had to fell some trees. And a young man by the name of Ryan Lang, who teaches at Ojai Valley School and is an expert art woodworker and beautiful furniture maker, and who teaches woodworking at Ojai Valley School, asked if he could have that lumber. And they said yes. And so he threw that lumber onto a truck and drove it on up, this was last fall, and drove it on up to his shop up in Upper Ojai. And a week later, the Thomas Fire raged through Upper Ojai. And so when Ryan Lang was finally able to get up there, the wood was completely charred, and he thought he had lost all of that wood, but he took a chisel and he went in and he found out that indeed the wood was saved. And so that reclaimed Thomas firewood is being used to construct what is called a welcoming table. And we approved a welcoming table and 2 benches, and it was to go into the entry that leads into this event center. But when the fire department, full circle story, came out and looked at this, they said, you can't put it there because if there's a fire and people have to exit, it could actually block the way. And so this presentation, this early Monday, was to put the welcoming table in another location, which we unanimously approved. We think that that location is just fine. There are materials in your packet if you want to actually look and see where the table is. It's in an area where people walk up and through in order to get to the event center. So we feel it will have good visibility.
Oh, I thought that was where it was.
It's
Actually,
going to,
where it
It's
was
a little
initially.
tricky to
yeah.
see when the materials that they presented to us, where it was and where it is. Do we have the site
Yeah.
map, James,
It's okay.
available
I trust you.
in there?
it's
Okay.
being moved to an adjacent courtyard area that's totally visible from that central
Is there
pass-through.
The first location was going to be from an entryway that came off of the parking lot. And this is even better because
think we
it
have it in
comes
there.
off of a pathway, and all of the people who are staying at the inn, and presumably visitors too, would come down that pathway and come into this new location, which they're going to call the Art Courtyard. And the piece will be located in a location that the fire department says is quite
Fine.
all right. But there was another wrinkle.
There was another wrinkle,
Not done. I
because
got
this was
questions.
actually a 2-part request. The one request was to relocate the table. The second request was as a result of some budget redo, because as anyone who does art knows, it's always going to cost more than what you think. And the inn then asked if they could eliminate the 2 benches, but that was unanimously not approved. We felt that the table and the benches were a set, and we wanted to see them continue with coming back in a month. We gave them a month to come back and have a place for us where those benches would go. We think that's very possible, and they have to work the budget out on their own, because when it comes to public art, we really don't have budget change orders. There's a set amount of money. You've got to do the project within that set amount of money. If you said you're going to do a table and benches, you've got to do a table and benches.
Right.
So,
And in the
yeah.
discussion, the representative of the inn averred that this would not cut into the fee for the artist, that the artist would be kept whole, so to speak. So I think what this means is that the inn is going to have to pony up some additional funds of their own to make this viable.
Yeah.
But Christine is right. The basic premise of public art projects is that a budget and a project are approved, and some modifications might be possible to the project, but we're not adding funds or cutting things back because of cost. That's the responsibility of the artist and the project people.
Right.
So we were firm and unanimous in that regard.
Yeah. So, James, is there any action we have to take on this? We have to approve the location of the table. Do we also have to approve the denial or the comeback on the benches? I'm going to let James take over on this part.
Yeah.
No, the action would be approving the relocation of the table.
Benches.
I would say we don't need to take any action on the benches at this time.
We just
because it's
wait and
gonna
bring it back
come back
Wait when it
before
in
comes
us.
back.
September.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we need a motion for that.
I would
Well,
move
Linda
that-
has a
I
question.
have a
Linda,
question, but I
question.
don't know if you want me to ask it before or after, but
No,
since
before.
the inn is doing these public art projects on their, all scattered over their campus, do they have a handout they give guests or a map of any kind? And shouldn't they have if they don't have?
They will when I'm done with that public art tour.
Well, I know, but I mean, it seems like if they've got them hidden in these pockets.
Yeah,
there's no way for the
and,
public to know about it unless they.
yeah, and I'm hoping that some of the funding that will be needed, and I don't think there'll be a lot of funding, might come from some of the places that will be highlighted in the tour, because each of the tours, actually one big tour, which you could use the whole day, do it for the whole day, but I've broken it up into 3 segments. And one of those segments is the Ojai Valley Inn and Spa. And it really ends at a restaurant, which is going to bring them business. So I'm hoping that they might help with money for some of the
It's to
written
their own
materials.
advantage
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
make it
it is to their
known,
advantage.
because it's an enhancement of the Ojai Valley Inn.
That's right.
It again makes them unique amongst the
Could
five-star
be good.
properties that they're competing with, in that they
Yeah.
do have public art on the
Right.
property.
So that'll all be done.
That'll
and
happen.
It's exciting. So we need a motion then for approving
The relocation.
CAPA's recommendation that the table be relocated to the artist courtyard.
I would so move.
And I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Done. Onward.
Okay. This one is to consider Sane Living Center's proposed public art project. And if you look in your packet, do we have the maquette here possibly? This, Aubrey, would you like to come up to the stand and just be introduced? You don't have to give a presentation tonight. You did
Please, no.
a wonderful job on Monday. But if you want to just come up and get introduced and put this up here maybe on the table but in front of Linda and Michael.
It's much easier to see.
Yeah,
That's why we have
There
magnets.
we are. And I
yeah,
think,
this is why we have
This
maquettes.
is the bird
Yes.
bath, right?
Yes.
correct.
Yeah, so we're going to go over the whole thing. So this is Audrey.
Or compass.
Beltine, and Audrey is one of the movers and the shakers behind Sane Living Center. And we also met the artist Ray Serino. I should be talking into this. We also met the artist Ray Serino, who, for those of you that want to Google Ray Serino, he's widely known throughout the Los Angeles area and environs, and has done many, many sculptures. And we're so lucky to have him here in Ojai. So this piece,
He's also permaculture, right?
this piece is stainless steel. Now, it's not going to be black. It's going to be the color of stainless steel. And this over here is this is a question mark. If you turned it on its side, you would see that it forms a question mark, and this is the period of the question mark. And this originally is a water feature, but we've discussed a lot about water and maintenance for a water feature, and we're allowing Sains Center to use their best judgment on that element of the project. The question mark itself reflects what Sane Institute is all about. And this, of course, is what the whole public art program, when it comes to private development in particular, is all about. It's about the developer using 1% of their funding to do something that extends what that project is, that adds the art spirit to it, because one of the cornerstones of Ojai is its art spirit. And I have to tell you that Audrey and Ray Serino have taken this and embraced it in their heart, and they have come up with something so incredible. So what you see here is the beginning of life, which is represented by
Leaves.
grasses and seaweed forms. And then in the middle, you'll see human forms. And this is the next stage of evolution, which is human development. And then over here, this is an abstract of artificial intelligence, so almost like a computer you would see on a motherboard. And this is what makes up this sculpture, which is going to be on the Matilaha Street side, on the grass, in front of the building. And we approved it unanimously, and we'll take questions. And Marcy and Michael can answer questions, too.
I have a question.
Linda?
I have a couple questions. I did Google him, and I thought it was awesome, because he's also into permaculture and alternative
Yep.
creations. So I just thought it was awesome. I have a couple questions. It's stainless steel, correct?
Correct.
And how tall is it going to be?
It's 8 feet.
8 feet at the
At the
tallest.
one end, goes down to 6 feet. Yep.
So you walked that already on the site? Because I walked by there to look at it, and it looks like a real small space, but you were okay with it?
Well,
I
I'm
don't know,
assuming that because of the extensive materials they gave us that included site plans, that this fits in that area.
Yeah.
You've got to come up to the, why don't you just stay up there in case questions go to you, Aubrey, and then they'll be on the television.
The site that it's actually located on, not the whole site, just the site for the park,
Right.
is 20 foot by 25 foot. So it's quite a large site.
Okay, because when I just didn't, I thought it looked like it was going to be quite, there's not a lot of distance between that and the building to see it. That's all I was wondering about, but you've already looked at all that. I just wanted to make sure you guys did, I'm
This-
sure you
This is
did.
7 feet wide, and from the
The widest part?
pavement, yeah, the widest part. From the pavement to the building is 20 feet wide.
Oh, no, it's 13
Good question.
feet.
So
Okay.
I think one of the things that we looked at and that we approved of was the sense of flow, both on the street side and entering into the building between this and the building itself. And I think there's ample flow in both cases. The other thing that I think is a strong feature of this is that there will be shadow patterns that are created by it as well. And I think
On the
that will
building.
be a
Interesting.
very sort of vitalizing aspect of the piece, because it'll be moving as the sun moves.
Okay, and I had another question, and it said in the packet, I was reading it through, and it said that it's going to be lit. Now, we have a dark sky ordinance, so I'm kind of wondering how this is going to be lit, and I'm a little concerned. Did you guys talk about that?
Well,
Yes,
I think the
the-
presumption is that they would have to, anything they do would have to be within the boundaries of the ordinance.
Well, I think it should be built into the project, the lighting.
I think we excluded the lighting.
From the project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
We
there is no
excluded the
lighting?
Well, it would have to come back to us again.
Oh,
But
okay.
didn't we specifically exclude?
Okay, that was one of my
Lighting.
concerns, because I know we have a dark sky ordinance, and we're not supposed to be, lighting up the sky, so I was wondering, I thought maybe you were gonna build it into the base and have it,
No, there's not going to be any of the lighting that goes up like that. I think
So
that
it's
the brief
basically a
discussion we
sculpture.
have is that it's a sculpture, and there might be on some occasions lighting that went through it to sort of make it more visible. But I think anything obviously would have to be within the boundaries of the ordinance.
So there really isn't any light?
That's really
Okay.
good that you brought that up, Linda. And I would ask you to go back, Aubrey, and talk to Ray about making sure that any lighting that you do complies with dark sky ordinance.
Yes, definitely we definitely do that. We were only thinking of lighting for specific events, not as an everyday lighting. And the lighting is really from my side where I'm standing, and you're actually the building. It would be a shadow onto the white wall of the building.
Okay.
That, you know.
Right.
And did you decide to do a bird bath still on this or not? Because you said a fountain, but in here it says a bird bath.
Right, well, bird bath fountain. I think we're leaving that to the discretion of Ray Serino and Aubrey, because we brought up concerns about water, and we brought up concerns about maintenance when you have water running on a stainless steel structure and what it might cost to maintain something like that. So they're going to do a little more, you know,
Correct. We're
we
going to
trust
explore
that
it
they're going to come
more.
back with the right thing,
But the
totally.
idea of a fountain is basically maybe a drop of water, maybe every 3 minutes.
Yeah.
What we're really looking for is trying to communicate the idea
Of water.
that everything we do has consequences.
Right.
And those consequences is when the water hits the middle of a pool, which is not a pool, it's at the
ripples out.
side. You're going to see the sort of, and it's only one drop.
I actually like the idea of the water.
Yeah, I do too.
I do too.
And I also like the idea of the water changing whatever you use for that sculpture over time. I mean, I don't think it's a bad thing to see it corrode or whatever.
Yeah.
To me, it would be more earthy if it was. So I think it's
Gotta get you on
beautiful.
the public art committee.
I think it's
Great
beautiful.
comments.
Those are my two questions. I just wanted to know.
Yes, Susan, would you like to come up to the microphone if you have something to say, please? This is Sousa Francina, council member, who is our liaison person this month, I guess.
Yes, I am. So I just want to strongly advocate for having a bird bath. I live in the heart of town. I have a small bird bath. You would not believe the number of, they can count on it. Once they know that they can count on the water, they come in, they take a dip on a hot day. It would just be a delight, and I would hope that would encourage other people to do the same. And then make it out of material that doesn't heat up, or, that minimizes heating, because the steel might absorb the heat, so that would be a consideration. Yeah.
He probably would know a lot about that because I Googled him and he was talking about using the heat to cook meat, so.
Yeah. No, I'm so
Yeah.
confident in Ray Serino. He understands permaculture. He's so connected to the earth. What he'll do will be beautiful.
Yeah,
So.
Right.
thank you.
Thank you
Okay,
for the
and-
encouragement, because we agree. We agree.
Any other comments or questions? Then I think it'd be appropriate to have a motion to accept the recommendation of CAPA, or the public art, CAPA, to approve this project. Motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the project.
Okay, is there a second?
I second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Approved. Yes. Excellent. Thank you.
Congratulations.
And congratulations, and thank you for this.
And thank you,
It's
yes.
an exemplary project, I
Yes,
think.
we're so excited.
Really exemplary.
Really excited.
All right, we move on to item D, which is a waiver application. Would you like to speak about
Sure.
this one, Christine?
This is a project that's been on our project sheet for quite some time. It's a 9 single-family home development at the end of Bald Street in Pearl. And they actually did work with an artist for a long period of time on a project, but it turned out that for a variety of reasons that we think is best to just let sit, it could not come to fruition. And so the developer, Craig North, am I right, James? Craig North?
Craig Young.
Craig Young. Craig Young asked if he could apply for a waiver. He filled out the correct waiver application forms, and the Public Art Committee met, because that's not something CAPA does. CAPA's just looking at art. So the Public Art Committee met to consider this waiver, and given that it's not on Matilaha, it's not on Ojai Avenue, it's the end of Pearl Street on Bald, and given the other circumstances of this particular project, we felt that it was a good thing to recommend to the rest of the Arts Commission to accept, not to accept, but to recommend to City Council to approve a waiver in the amount of, I believe it's 26, you have it, James, the number?
$26,166.
some dollars. And some
And
odd
it should-
change.
It should be pointed out for the listening public that what this means is that instead of the developer using that amount of money to create a piece of public art, they will instead donate or pay that amount of money into the Public Art Fund. And so this money will then become available as a part of the Public Art Fund for the Public Art Committee to develop public art projects and to initiate public art projects rather than relying upon developers and so on. So this increases the scope of what the Arts Commission and particularly the Public Art Committee can do in terms of generating public art within Ojai that is perhaps much more visible and accessible and therefore impactful than a piece of public art in this particular location would be. So on that basis, it seemed there was absolutely no reason not to endorse this request for a waiver.
Right. And so I think we have a question from Ms. Francino.
I'm just considering, mulling over what you said, I'm absorbing it, but I know that neighborhood, and it's kind of a densely populated neighborhood, a lot of people walking around, and maybe children. So, I mean, public art, to my way of thinking, would be appropriate there because the reasons you gave could be applied to the Wild Tennis Academy and to the Ojai Valley Inn. It's a limited, it's not like everybody in
That's
town's
true.
walking by those places. So what was the developer's reasoning? I especially think of children, like some kind of art that would be appealing to the children in the neighborhood and to the people that live there to enhance the quality of the neighborhood. So, yeah.
Can I say something?
Sure.
I think probably one of the things was that they worked with that other artist and it didn't work out. And it's also a smaller amount to do public art. It's the 26,000.
Actually, $26,000 is a good amount
Is
to do
it?
a piece of public art, and we were hopeful that there would be public art there. As far as who the public would be in this particular case, the art would be located within this compound of 9 single-family homes, and would be very doubtful that there would be traffic other than.
Oh, so within, but what about on the outskirts on the street?
Yes,
That's what
it's,
I was
no,
thinking.
it's not on, that, exactly right, Souza. So when we considered that, and we would never dismiss that 9 people don't deserve public art. They're the public too. We take that seriously. But as I said, there were extenuating circumstances in this that don't behoove us to get into in a public conversation. But given those circumstances, plus where it was, how many people are going to live in that compound, there was another restriction put on that piece of art that should never have been put on it, that I don't need to go
Oh, no,
into that now.
I-
But all of
yeah.
that led us to believe that this was a good course of action. Then, of course, in my mind, as public art chair, I'm thinking about the Libby Bowl project, and I'm thinking it would be nice to have a little
Oh,
more
yeah,
money
yeah,
in the
I
public art
understand.
fund.
I understand that you want the money, I understand. But I'm also saying, could the developer have put the art on the outskirts, on the street side of the project? Was that, I mean, because
I
this
think
is
the
going to
way-
come before the city
It's
council,
their,
right?
it's their
Discussion.
choice where they're going to put it within the site plan of the development. They get to choose that. We don't dictate to them where it's going to go. That's up to them. They're the private developer. We really, what we do, if they're going to do an art project, is evaluate the merits of the art in terms of its ability to be maintained, in terms of its artistic merit, in terms of who the art, and all those things. We don't dictate to them It has to go here, it has to go there, that's up to them.
But this is coming before the city council for final approval, is that right?
On
A
August
waiver,
28th.
yes,
Um,
always comes back to city council.
May I raise a
Not
point?
Not an art project, that stops here, but a waiver goes to the city
Because
council.
those are questions that we might have, yeah.
I want to add one little bit
Marcy?
of information. Thank you. The developer did mention that the fire department, and as it wound its way through the permitting process, they had to do turnarounds, and it kind of ate up more of their site than they were anticipating. So really limited
Thank you, Marcy.
possibilities for placement of this public art.
One of the things I was thinking when you were speaking, and I remember you saying quite frequently that she'd rather that the developer do the public art. But, so it's interesting, you're on the other side of the fence this time. But anyway, I was thinking when you were saying something that would be good in a neighborhood and children-friendly, I was immediately thinking of bike racks and art bike rack, because you see those at the beach. I've seen them in Santa Barbara, and they're really interesting. They're made out of tubular steel, and they're very hard to deface, and they're a nice statement, and it would have been child-friendly. But in view
Well,
of everything
and when,
else.
you know, that leads me to feel compelled to mention that when a private developer does a piece of public art, it's supposed to be integral to what that, like Sane Center, is supposed to be integral to what that building is all about. So we don't dictate to private developers what to do. And in fact, we're looking, hopefully, when I meet with them initially, one of the things that I encourage them to do is to look at this as an incredible opportunity to put that development on the map, because now it's going to have some artistic merit. It's not just a building anymore. So bike racks probably are a great idea for a project
depends on what
somewhere.
they look
But
like.
for this, which is single-family homes, might not really reflect what that development is all about, and might even be thought of as plop art, which we don't ever want to do.
Well, actually, that location is marketed, I believe, as bicycle pedestrian, that you can walk and bike to town. So it would actually fit in, wouldn't it?
Maybe to the neighborhood, but we're talking about to the site map of the development itself for that piece of art.
I think that's one of the.
Whatever.
whatever.
I've said my
Yeah.
piece. Thank you
Yeah,
very
one-
much.
One of the major issues was mentioned briefly, and I think it needs to be stressed, and that is that initially the piece of public art was going to be in the center of this development, where it really would be central to the living experience of those people who are there. But the issue became one of space for fire truck turnarounds and emergency vehicle accessibility. And they just said, no, you can't do that there, because we need X amount of.
They would have had to downsize it considerably.
Yeah, I
And so that
understand, yeah.
really became a major factor in their thinking that led them to this decision.
All right, thank you
But
very
these are
much.
all
Okay.
great questions, and it's always a great opportunity to be able to explain a little bit more about what the ordinance is about and what the vision is.
Yeah, yeah. And these questions might
So we
come up
appreciate all the
during
questions.
city council, so I'll be fortified. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, we, again, I think are ready for a motion, if someone would forthwith.
I motion that we accept or recommend the waiver.
Is there a second for
That
the
we recommend the waiver to city
recommendation
council.
to the city
Yes,
council?
to
Yes.
city council.
And I second.
And is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Okay. We will move on
Yes.
to the Arts Grants Committee. Ms. Toscher, if you would, please.
Yes, as we were discussing earlier, James will forward the complete grants packet to everyone, so you can see the current version that we're working with this year and become familiar with it. It's basically what we had last year, a few tweaks, and then you'll be able to review the questionnaire that grant awardees will need to fill out when they complete their project. We've already handed out 3 grants applications that we know of. Of course, anyone can access on the website the application, so we have no way to keep track of that. But someone has already RSVP'd for our workshop. And not the same person that collected 3 that she's dispersing to artists she knows about. And So anyway, I think we're going to be very busy once these all start rolling in.
Well, let's hope so, because we have, I think, $5,000 more this year than last. Thanks to the city's council's approval of our budget request, we have a total of $25,000 this year for
I
arts
think
grant.
27.5.
27.5, my
Yeah.
mistake, sorry. Okay,
Could I add one thing?
Yes, please.
Related to grants? It feels like longer ago than it was, but at the last council meeting, Ray Powers' grant modification was approved that was recommended by the Arts Commission.
good,
Yeah.
okay. All right, we'll move on to the Budget Committee, and I have nothing to report, actually, at all, so we don't need to report that. The mentor program is zooming along. One of the mentor pairs has already reported completion of the work. Stephen Edwards, who is working with a Villanova student, Maddie Parnell, I think is her name. Maddie has completed a beautiful piece. It's a wedge made of mirrors, and it's just elegant. And as you see it sitting in situ, it's really a fine piece, and they've apparently had a great time.
Yes.
I know that Linda and others are reaching out to the pairs of artists and students to set up interviews so that we can publicize that. And the schedule is now in place for the showing of the work, which will be hung, I believe, on the 26th of August, as I recall. 25th and 6th? 27th?
Wait a minute, let me look.
At any event, it will be available at the end of that week. It will be available. And the reception will be on the 21st of September. So mark that date down. And I've started to notify all of the artist pairs that is the schedule, and to appraise them of the fact that they will be expected to say a few words at that event and receive plaudits from all of us, and also receive the checks. And I've also been in touch with the Ojai Education Foundation to request that they forward to the city their contribution, because this is a joint project. Each year, the Ojai Education Foundation funds one of the pairs of artists and students. So that's the report on the Artist Mentor Program. City Gallery Committee, Ms. Byrne, please.
Well, for the viewing audience, we have a wonderful show here by Carlos Grasso, and I encourage everybody to come and look at the show. We're just so fortunate to have the show here. His reception is going to be the third Friday in August, which is August 25th, from 5:30 to 7 here at City Hall. And it's part of Ojai's Third Fridays, that a lot of the galleries in town and shops are all open, so we're participating in that. The next show is, as Michael said, the Student Mentor Show. And as I'm not sure if the viewing audience knows, but for example, Carlos, because of our relationship with the Ojai Valley Museum, he also has a few pieces at the museum. For the Mentor Show, the mentors usually have a piece at the museum as well as here along with their mentees. So that's a wonderful show. And their reception will not be on Third Friday. It'll be on Sunday, September 17th from 4 to 7. At least that's what's, unless you want to change it, it's.
I'm sorry, the date again for the reception for the student?
But this can be changed, Sunday, September 17th.
Oh, okay, I was told it was the 21st. Okay, the 17th, that's fine.
No, you can do it whatever day you want.
No, Sunday the 17th is fine.
Okay, Third Fridays are kind of good. I just
Yeah.
wasn't sure if you wanted to do it on a Friday instead of a Sunday.
When,
Does that affect the
what would
city?
that date be then?
That would be September 21st.
That's what I thought initially,
Okay.
September 21st.
Okay, then let's.
Let's do it then, on
let's
the, on the
change it.
Friday. Yeah, that's better, because it'll tie into the advertising and promotion for Third Friday.
Yes, I agree. And then,
Hours
5:30 to
5:30.
7.
also,
Yes. We,
here.
yes. And the next show is going to be Martha Moran, who is one of our new acquisitions. She's going to have an exhibit here. That'll be
After the Carlos,
after the
after the
student.
student show, right,
Mhm. Just
Okay.
to throw that out there.
right.
Okay, that's
Okay.
it.
Thank you. Okay, arts education, we're on hold there as we flesh out the Arts Commission when we appoint the 2 missing members, and I hope that happens between now and our September meeting. Then we can reconstitute all of our committees, and I think at that time, we can really begin some serious discussion about whether we do indeed want to move to the development of a second book in our series, focusing on ceramics and pottery in the Ojai Valley, which would be from the Chumash beginnings through Beatrice Wood to the present time, and I think could be another fine historical document and survey, and at the same time a representation of that particular rich area of artistic activity in Ojai. So that's on hold. Okay, public relations. Christine, this is you again.
Okay. We've been a little busy. We got the PR out for the grant and also for the Carlos Grasso show. And Linda and I are working on, and as you mentioned, on interviewing the mentors and mentees. And just, my idea is to maybe focus on one of them once a week on social media. And of course, it'll be on our website.
That's great. That's terrific.
And thank you, Christine,
Yeah,
Oh,
on behalf of the Grants
that's good
Committee.
work.
oh, and I changed the time on that one.
Thank you.
Yes.
I also had a question for you.
Yes.
Where are we at with the Instagram? For James, actually.
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing to report at this time. If you watched the HPC meeting, I don't remember if it was this week or last week, but it was the most recent HPC meeting. They actually also requested a Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Yeah, which kind of, I think, is kind of giving, making the city manager kind of want to pull back and kind of come up with a plan for everything. So we're working on it, but that came up, and kind of where we're leaning with that is we're trying to figure out if we're going to have a rule like across the board, like Facebook is okay, Instagram is okay, Twitter's not, or so we're kind of coming up with that social media plan at this time.
I don't think we want Twitter, do we?
No.
No,
It seems like most people are just, they throw Twitter out because it's, name recognition, but even the HPC said, we'll give that one up.
Yeah, I'll give that up.
I think Twitter has been so contaminated by the
Yes.
overusage of it by a certain public figure that I don't think we want any part of it.
But we're supposed to come up with a plan for the commissions, and then
Okay.
we'll update you then.
That sounds good.
Okay, let's see. Art acquisitions is next. Linda?
Well, the Martha Moran piece has been installed in the hallway there, and we're in the process of getting a plaque made just for that piece because that's going to live there because it's too hard to move. And we are going to use the template for, I think, the one that's in Gretchen's piece that's in the meeting room here. It's just a real simple brass plaque, and it's about, I don't know, about 5 lines. Says who the artist is, what their inspiration was, and basically that's it. So that's kind of what I'm looking forward to doing there. I haven't heard anything on the hospital project. I don't know where we're at with that.
They're, I think, mulling over a lot of problems and possibilities there. The information I have on the hospital project is that the issue now is, are they going to have to raise funds for the additional art that they need for the rooms, or is the hospital going to pay for that? I think once they have established that, then we'll move forward with all of the development of how we would interrelate with works from the city collection being used in the public spaces in the new continuing care center.
Do they have
But
a head?
I think it will go forward.
What's the head person for that? Because I didn't know who to contact.
Barbara Hirsch is the chair of the Operation Picasso Committee, and they're in charge of the artwork there. And Richard Amon is their consultant. He's also on the
Okay.
committee. So either one of the two, but that's sort of where they are right now.
Okay, and besides that, I did want to report that, I guess this is museum and art acquisitions at the same time. Museums is going to order, if she hasn't ordered them already, she's ordering them by the end of the week, the racks,
The storage racks.
The storage racks,
Good.
the new ones. And so we're going to be working on that. I'm going in next week, a couple days, because we have to reorganize and rewrap and make room to put the new ones in. So that's underway before the tariffs hit. Because
Good.
we don't want the steel prices to go through the.
As you're doing that, can I just make a suggestion and a comment, and then for James as well? By ordinance, there has to be an acquisition number assigned by the CDD, by the Community Development Department, for all art acquisitions as well as all public art pieces. And we're so in arrears on this.
Yeah, I was going to
But
say.
if as you're doing that, might be a really good time to get those numbers.
Well, we need to have a joint meeting.
Well, you know what? I
because-
reread the ordinance. We don't need to chronologically do them together. The public art can be one chronological set of numbers, and what you're doing can be a second, which would be so much easier.
That's the way it's been in the
Yeah.
past.
Well,
That's
the
why I was
ordinance made it
confused.
sound like it had to be combined, but
No.
it doesn't.
Okay, all right,
Good.
then I don't have to worry about it. And you're going to have Richard take picture, or Richard. Jeez.
Roger.
Roger take pictures of all the public art. Is he going to do the acquisitions?
This first leg is not all. It is about well, actually, this first leg is to take archival photography of the pieces that are city pieces, not the private pieces. That's going to be the second leg. We wanted
mean-
to get the city pieces, all of those
The public art
archives.
pieces.
This is all
Yeah.
in order to create archive folders. Because every time, like now, that we have a new piece, we're behind.
Mm-hmm.
And no one's fault, there's just not enough staff to do it.
Well, we didn't have
I'm
any
doing
money
what I
for a
can.
while.
We're doing what we can, yeah.
Okay, so, because right now, when we are cataloging them for the museum, we're taking pictures, but they're not
That's
great
fabulous.
pictures.
Yeah, they
Well,
aren't very good.
They'll serve your purpose at the
Okay,
museum.
I
here.
was
Well,
just
no,
gonna-
we also use them on the website, though,
Websites,
and
yeah.
they're kind of, they aren't the greatest.
Maybe I'll talk to Roger
Well,
about that, too.
for this contract with Roger is specifically for public
public art,
art.
yeah.
And the
Okay.
money for that is coming out of the Public Art Fund, as you know, all
Yeah.
approved that to happen in more than one stage, so stage one, stage two.
Well, maybe it's something we should talk about. Do we want, when we're I mean, we talked about it, Christine and I, from in the future, we're going to get, we have a picture of Martha's piece from the artist, but we're going to make sure every artist we acquire has a slide or a photograph, so we don't have to do that.
That's a very
I
good
think we
idea.
should probably do that with public art, too, don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
when
a
it's
very good
installed.
idea. Have
Then
the
we
art-
don't have
Roger
to
is
do
not
it.
just taking a hard copy photo, he's also doing a digital, and that was at the request of the two of you, and I
Yeah.
carried that forward. I'm sure it says that in the contract.
It is in the
It does.
contract.
Yeah.
So we're going to get the digital.
Okay, but in the future, maybe you can request that they do that.
Oh, absolutely.
That's a
Moving
good idea.
forward, we really have to
Yeah.
get this on track.
Yeah.
We're so far behind on
Okay.
this. I don't
All
know how to
right,
think about how
and
far
besides
behind we are.
that, I guess that's it for right now. on
Okay.
Art acquisitions, that's hard
Well,
to
we have
say.
one more item, and that is awards. We have completed the Lifetime Achievement Award for the year. That was a great event. I think Mayor Johnson really handled it beautifully. It had a sort of flair and elegance, and he came around to the front here, and he brought Ms. Hirsch forward. and- Yes, and she was great, and there were a large number of people here who came in support of her to celebrate the occasion. So that was just exactly what that sort of public recognition of someone who's been a major contributor to the art in the city should be, and it was. It was great.
Can I say, too, that I think
Yes.
it was just really nice, a nice way to see that the art is supported by the city. I mean, for the arts community to feel supported, like
Yes.
when we gave it to David for the building,
Mhm.
David Burry, and that was the architect, and then this is the theater. I just think it's really a nice,
And it's,
Really a
we've,
nice
we've
thing.
covered a variety of artistic endeavors, too, with the Lifetime Achievement Award, which again is as it should be, because you could go on forever in choosing different modes here in Ojai. So I think when we come back in September at our next meeting, it will be appropriate for us to revisit the other award that we have available, the Hope Fraser Award, which we award occasionally. That is not necessarily an annual award. But I think if we could have that on the agenda for the September meeting, please, James, we'll begin some discussion of that and see where we want to go with that. Okay, we can move on now to the staff liaison report. James?
Thank you. We don't have a separate list of reports, the report on the project subject to public art this month, because all the projects that were due for status updates were on the agenda for discussion: the Saint Center, the Ojai Valley Inn farmhouse project, and the Pearl Street project. I know it was brought to my attention earlier today that there's the project on Aliso that we're going to take a look at. So that one is one that we'll have an update for at the next meeting. But there's no report this month. There is the Public Art Fund update. I almost didn't include that because that also is going to be changing based on what's on the agenda, but it is in there for now. Assuming that waiver gets approved, which it still needs to go to council, that would add $26,166 to the total Public Art Fund. But the report listed does not have that in it at this time since it hasn't been approved yet. And those are the only two things. The third thing, quickly, that was already mentioned that I wanted to mention is the Roger Conrad contract did go to council. Phase 1 was approved, but the funding for both phases was approved. So we should be able to work on both phases.
Good, excellent, excellent.
Thanks, James.
Okay, commissioner comments. Do you want to start off? Do you have any comments to make? Apparently not. Okay, Linda?
I did have something I wanted to ask James. I heard through the grapevine, the house that's sold that used to be Richard Kites and Mary Kennedy's property next to the old Ojai Valley News, which is now the Underground. I heard that is going to be a new permaculture center. I don't know what they are exactly. It's that big property. It's an L-shaped property.
There's a new wooden fence in front of it.
Yes, there's a new wooden.
What streets, where
It's
is it?
on Ojai Avenue.
Ojai Avenue, next to the
So I wanted to ask James.
gas station.
I know that's probably mixed use, but I would really like to know what it's zoned for and what they've applied for, because I think, from what I understand, that's going to be a big thing. I think it's really awesome if that's what it's going to be, a permaculture center. It'd be really cool. But it's right by, where the
former gas station is.
where
It's
the
now-
framing
it's now
shop
called
is.
Summer Camp.
summer camp.
Oh, got it.
And there's the Ojai Valley News
Underground
building.
exchange is.
And it's the house that sits back from the street.
Oh, yes,
Oh.
Beautiful, beautiful
Yes,
house. And it has
yes.
some
I don't
outbuildings.
get out much.
Has outbuildings behind it, and then it has a piece of property that goes with it that
Yes.
wraps around onto
Oh,
Del Norte.
across from Boku.
Yes,
That's where they
across from
stored all
Boku.
the stone that they took off from the, when they redid the bowl.
All right, I'll find it.
But it's a really nice piece of
Sorry.
property, and I just kind of really want to know what's
Find
going
out.
on over there, what they've approved and what they've applied for.
I don't think anything's been
Yes,
approved
we will.
yet because I've been at the last couple planning commission meetings and that hasn't been there, but and I don't actually think offhand that anything's been applied for, but we'll look into it.
Because I noticed there was
Yeah.
some machinery and a bunch of people there, so I know they're doing something, but I
Okay,
don't know
we'll
what.
find
But it's
out.
exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Christine,
made-
any comments?
Yes, I do,
Yes.
because now that made me remember to ask you, did you find out about, no, it's that brain. Okay, it's gone.
We need some younger
Completely
people in this
gone.
commission,
It was
we
another-
really
It was
do.
another project
Two
that
more
we had
people
asked
to
you
keep it
about,
in their
to check up
brains.
on,
Am I off the hook on this one?
that you were gonna check up on. Marcy, you know what it is. Come on,
Oh,
help me.
God,
Save
this is
me,
an old
save
brain,
me.
too.
Okay, anyway, while my brain is on, whatever it's on here, I do have a little something that I do want to say. I would like to, since she's here tonight, to congratulate Susa Francina on the birth of her second grandchild.
Yes.
Just
Congratulations.
So congratulations,
Yeah,
Susan.
that's a work of
so
art.
sweet. That's a work of art.
Definitely. Yeah.
Oh, I know what it is. It came back. It came back. It's the old, it's on Montgomery, and there's some kind of museum going in the back, and you were going to check and see what's going on, because there's extensive construction going on there. It's the old, where they had all the candles and the, whatever that was, right next door to.
There was a dome in the backyard.
from
There was like
Ojai
a
House.
dome in the back.
Write things down in the future, would you please?
Kitty corner across from Ojai House.
Right.
Carrie Miller's project.
Yeah, and that is not qualifying?
There used to be.
I mean, they're doing a whole building back there.
No, they're not. I walk by it every day.
They're not doing a whole building back there?
Building back there.
Okay, let's move on, shall we?
All right, well, anyway, would you check it out?
Yes, I will.
Okay, Christine, any comments?
I don't know if I missed it since I was a little bit late, but what's the status of us filling out our commission?
The status is that the council at their last meeting stabilized or made a decision about the protocol for choosing new commission members. And the new protocol will be that the mayor will invite one other member of the council, and the two of them will do the interviewing of potential new commission members. If the mayor chooses to, the mayor may also invite anyone they choose to, including the chair of the commission. I, in fact, wrote, subsequent to that decision, I've sent an email to the mayor outlining the strengths of the various applicants and saying that I hope the decision will be made soon. I would be happy to participate if he chooses to include me.
Okay.
So that's the status.
So we don't know if we'll have a full commission by September.
I'd be damned if we don't. I mean, we surely, between now and then,
I'm confident we
time could
will.
be found. I'm
And-
sure we will.
And
Okay.
council decided to leave us with seven
seven?
and not to.
Yes, that was the other important decision. We have not been reduced to a 5-member committee.
Thank you, I wouldn't have thought of it.
Okay,
That's it.
and one final item. Council member Francina, any comments you wish to make?
No, it's just, well, first I want to say, thank you for the congratulations. And I want you to know, her other grandmother is Lisa Skyhart Marshall. I don't know if you all know that.
yes, she's
Yes.
good
Yes, we have a very extended family. It reaches far. She actually has 3 grandmothers, but thought that you'd like to know that. And then I have a kind of a sobering topic, and I'm sure you're somewhat aware of it, but I wanted to, because your task is to support the arts. And you're not planning commissioners and you're not city council people, but we're all affected by the housing shortage, especially our local artists. And the council received a letter this week from Andra Belknap, who's no longer with the Ojai Valley News, and she's writing as a constituent. And I'll just excerpt a few paragraphs, and then maybe we can discuss a little bit. She said, she wrote, "As I no longer work for the newspaper, I'm reaching out as a member of the community on behalf of Carmen Elbera, a local Elbera, my mispronunciation, or maybe she misspelled it. Is that right? Carmen, because we all just know her as Carmen.
We know her as
Yeah.
Carmen, yeah.
Yeah, I think it is.
A local artist who you probably know as the woman behind the Keep the Families Together parade chairs. They were on the front of the Ojai Valley News, and the hilarious mural that once graced the side of the Playhouse building. And we all know that Carmen has devoted years, all kinds of community projects, including the mandala, just yeah, the art detour. She's just a vital member of our community. And then this is what happens. I think I'm the only renter on the city council, so I understand her predicament. Her longtime affordable rental has been sold, and she fears that she will I'm just paraphrasing because it's a little long, that she won't be able to live in Ojai as a result. She can't afford the rent. And then she posted a message. It's a rather stark, is that the word, message? And I'm not, it may not be completely fair, depending on how you look at it, but I think it's important to recognize how an artist like her feels about Ojai. She wrote, Dear city officials, please stop calling Ojai an artist town. It may have been at one point, but it wasn't because of anything you did. You love to cite us in your tourism literature because it sounds oh so quaint and artsy, a town full of artists all living happily, but in reality, you don't care about us unless it's one of the wealthy artists or you want to hit us up for free stuff. I have lived and worked and donated art to every cause here for almost 3 decades, while also starting or taking part in many community building projects involving art. That's what artists do, because that's who we are. The current rental climate for low-income people in general has the heart of Ojai bleeding out and being forced to leave. Keep catering to the wealthy, and all that's positive and vibrant about Ojai will be lost. One by one, the artists, musicians, and creatives are being pushed out. No room at the inn. We will take our colors with us and leave you with the beige palette of the bourgeois, which you'll love because I believe beige is the only color the city approves of. Now, I understand her perspective. I don't completely share it, but I understand that when you're pushed, when you can't find a place to live, and I've been in her position a few times in my life, trying to support myself with the yogic arts and the writing arts. And so affordable housing is key to supporting the arts. And it brings to mind, I was lifelong friends with Beatrice Wood. I met her when I was 7, when she was a poor artist living at the top of McAndrew with the sign that said reasonable and unreasonable. And, it's hard sometimes for artists to make it, eventually she got an agent, and we used to laugh because I used to break her. I've broken her $2,000 plates, and she would go, "Oh, never mind, I can make another one." She thought the prices were outrageous. She would never have priced them like that. Her dogs broke her art. She had dogs running around. Yeah. So, I'm not, it's the truth.
Yeah,
I have a lot of anecdotes like that. And that reminds me, I'm very happy you're going to do an art that's in the work, a book about the potters of Ojai, the ceramicists. Okay, so I just wanted to leave you with that thought. Maybe even one of you could reach out to Carmen if you haven't already. I'm going to reach out to her and talk about her situation, because there's so many good things happening in Ojai, such as the Sane Center. And everywhere you go, there you can see there's a vibrancy, in my opinion, a wonderful vibrancy. And I would hate for artists who may not be a huge commercial international success to feel left out, because it's the artists like her, they are the lifeblood of our community, and it saddens me deeply if she has to go elsewhere. And then my other thing that I want to do is I've spent several hours with River, who is her shop now.
Studio Savagio.
What?
Studio
Savagio, thank you. On the east side of the back of the arcade, and I would like to, arrange to meet with maybe Marcy and Marcy. I just haven't socialized with you for so long. But I'd like to meet with you and sit with you in that courtyard, because it has so much potential. That is, as a community hub, as an artist hub, and there's spots for public art there, and we discussed that not all public art has to be permanent. You could have temporary public art, and so that she's very good at organizing these kind of things. She's very talented, and she really wants to participate and do something there.
Susan, I've
Yeah.
had some conversations.
Yeah, she
with-
told me, yeah,
yes,
yeah.
And perhaps you and I can have a talk afterwards.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
I know that personally that the bear was yarn bombed one time. That was temporary art.
Yes,
Yes, that's a separate discussion.
yes.
I want to talk about that too, but not here. Okay. All right, thank you. I really enjoy these meetings. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Susan, I would like to,
We appreciate your being with us.
when you commented on and I don't know her, I apologize, the woman that is losing
Carmen.
her rental home.
She's an awesome artist.
Ventura found a solution for that because they discovered
Yes.
artists were moving and they built the wave.
Yes, I wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, so maybe we could, amongst us, dream up something.
That'd be
It starts with
wonderful.
a thought and an intention. We need something like that.
Yes.
That would be great.
There is, of course, an opportunity for exactly that sort of thing on the Chaparral site.
Yes, yes,
That is
yes.
something that I think is
Live
such a
workspace.
golden opportunity for this city
That's what I thought.
to take that space and turn it into a mix of live-work artist studios
Yes.
and artist
Wonderful.
shops and display areas and public art
But-
and possibly an arena for outdoor work, and turn the Chaparral Auditorium into another flexible performance space. I mean, that is a golden opportunity for the city,
I
dealing with
completely agree,
exactly the
yeah.
problem that you've raised.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and when
Keep
they
in
did
mind,
it,
golden.
they actually interviewed people for that, and they didn't have to be internationally famous artists to get
Yeah.
a place there. And I remember going on art walks there.
I have a lot
to-
of friends that live there.
Yeah, so
and
do I.
It was just basically, you had to be an artist,
Mm-hmm.
and it's great because a lot of them that would have had to move are able to stay there.
It's a very complex project to make happen, however. I happen to know a lot of the backstory on that project because of my engagement with Bell Arts Factory. And that was a combination of, I forget how many different granting agencies
yes.
joining together and some
Yeah.
very slick maneuvering and building a project that not only included those types of accommodations that we're talking about, but also some very expensive
Oh,
penthouses,
penthouse.
if you will, so that helped pay for the project. And I think somehow or other, we have to accept the fact that economic realities almost necessarily dictate that sort of combination. If you're going to make a project like
Right.
that work, it has to be multi-use and multi-income sources
Yes.
so that it works.
And I don't know if you remember, but because it was at least a year ago that there was a meeting at the Arts Center, and this idea was put out at that meeting.
Yes, yes, I
In
remember.
fact, I
yeah.
was the one that spoke to it.
Aubrey was there. Remember Aubrey?
Yeah, there were a lot of people there that had different ideas, however, and then it just sort of disappeared, that whole conversation.
Oh, actually, it hasn't quite disappeared. It's happening.
Still on the bubble.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
happening,
good.
yeah.
Well, Susan, I don't know if you remember, but
Yeah.
before Les Arbros went in and Evergreen Cottages was there was talk about making those into,
Yes, I remember that.
uh,
I often stand there and gaze out and think what could have been.
thing, yeah. yeah.
Yes, yeah,
I have an idea.
okay.
This might be easier to accomplish, I don't know. What about specialized property tax credits for property owners who rent to artists to get some kind of a credit to
I
encourage?
don't know if the city has
I don't know if
considered
that's
Will it be
something
legal even?
that's
It's a good question.
And they should do it for educators, too.
doable.
Yeah,
But offer some kind of a tax incentive to rent to artists, teachers.
it'd be tough for a city to do that. I'm trying to think of what, yeah. That's why cities tend to do grants and things like that. It's a little easier than,
Fewer legal
tax-based.
hurdles, yeah.
Yeah. But there are, now we're getting further into it, which is, it's not on the
Yeah.
agenda,
Yeah.
but there are a couple ideas that I'd be happy to talk about, but.
All right.
Okay, good.
Susan,
Starts
thank
by
you so much.
airing it out.
Thank you
Okay.
so much for bringing this to us.
All right, thank you
Appreciate
very
it.
much. Okay.
And with that, we are adjourned.
Great.
Thank you all.
Okay, so let's get it.
Thank you. Let me ask
Really
James,
lively
because I
meeting.
keep meaning to email him about this. So, I wanna, the labels for the gallery, did I
Sound
I
Arch.
want to, send them to Ojai Business Center for them to do it. Oh, you guys printed a bunch of them and then I run it through my printer, but, it's like, there's like, it scrapes and, so. Right, but what I'm wondering is, do you guys have like an agreement with them for discounts? Is there a contract in place? Oh, okay.
But a lot of the time, the local. That's like something you can, like, you can just ask.
I don't know about you, but my yard, I, a couple spots.
Oh, boy.